Salam, peace be upon you. My name is Muhammad Layak Sadiqi, the father of Holophase, part 47. Symbols as stable Phi pattern proxies. We began with one insight. Pattern is primary. Phi is circular comparability, the root permission for distinction. Only relations are public. Identity is invariance under lawful transformation. Persistence is certified survival through change. Interaction is joint constraint. Time is ordered transformation. No ex nihilo. Every appearance has provenance. The observer is a pattern within pattern reality. Measurement produces traces. Memory stabilizes them. Models compress structure. Prediction narrows lawful futures. Learning updates structure while preserving identity. Intervention alters coupling. Computation transforms patterns under rules. Information is constrained on possibility. Publicness makes knowledge shareable. Scale determines what becomes visible. Coarse graining moves between scales with declared loss. Emergence reveals new patterns at new scales. Self-modeling turns patterns toward themselves. Meaning is functional usefulness for other patterns. Now we ask, how does meaning become portable? The new question, how meaning travels. We have learned that meaning is not a mysterious substance hidden inside things. Meaning begins when one pattern becomes predictively, coordinatively, inferentially, or practically useful for another pattern system. But once we say that, another question rises immediately. How does meaning travel? How can one person leave something behind that still guides another person tomorrow? How can a signal cross distance and still matter at the other end? How can a dead scientist still teach the living? How can a map help someone who never met the map maker? How can a civilization remember promises, laws, songs, numbers, warnings, deaths, and ideas across generations? Meaning, in its first form, is relational and local. It happens in use. A cry warns, a smell guides, a pattern constrains expectation. But for meaning to become stable across distance, absence, and time, something more is needed. We need patterns that can carry usefulness beyond the original moment. We need patterns that can stand in for other patterns. We need patterns that point beyond themselves. Those are symbols. A symbol is not the thing itself. A symbol is not identical to what it stands for. A symbol is a stable pattern that reliably stands for another pattern under shared interpretive constraints. That is the heart of this part. A simple everyday example, the wedding ring. A wedding ring is a simple band of metal. Its material is gold or silver or platinum. Its shape is a circle. But the ring is not just a metal circle. It stands for something. A promise, a commitment, a relationship, a history. For the person wearing it, the ring has deep personal meaning. For others who see it, the ring conveys information. This person is married. The ring is a symbol. Its pattern, the circle of metal on a finger, reliably stands for something beyond itself under shared cultural understanding. The ring's power as a symbol does not come from the metal. It comes from the shared mapping between ring and what it represents. Without that shared understanding, it is just jewelry. Another example, the written word. The word tree written on a page is a pattern of ink, lines, curves, spaces. It is not a tree. You cannot climb it, sit under it, pick fruit from it, but it stands for tree. For anyone who reads English, the pattern tree reliably points to the concept of a tree, to actual trees in the world, to everything associated with trees. The word is a symbol. It is a stable proxy for something beyond itself. The pattern is embodied. ink on paper, pixels on screen, sound in air. But its function as a symbol depends on shared mapping. Readers of English have learned that this pattern stands for that category of things. What symbols are? Let us define symbols clearly. A symbol is a stable pattern that reliably stands for another pattern under shared interpretive constraints. This means stable. The symbol pattern must be recognizable across time and contexts. A symbol that changes every time is not a symbol. Reliably stands for there is a consistent mapping from symbol to what it represents. Another pattern. The symbol points to something else, which may be a concrete object, an abstract concept, a relation, a process, or another symbol. Shared interpretive constraints. The mapping is not private. It is shared among a community of users. This is what makes symbols public rather than merely personal. Symbols are pattern proxies. They are not the thing itself, but they are real patterns that do real work in the world. What symbol function requires for a pattern to function? As a symbol, several conditions must be met. Stability. The symbol pattern must be recognizable across time and contexts. If it changes beyond recognition, it cannot reliably stand for anything. Reproducibility. The symbol must be producible again, by the same person, by different people, in different situations. A one-time pattern that cannot be reproduced is not a symbol. Shared mapping discipline. Users must agree, explicitly or implicitly, on what the symbol stands for. This mapping may be learned, conventional, or designed, but it must be shared. Context sensitivity. The mapping may depend on context. The same symbol can stand for different things in different situations. A red light means stop in traffic, but means something else in a photography darkroom. Convention. Symbol systems are built on convention, social agreement, often developed over time, about what patterns point to what. Without these, a pattern may be interesting, but it is not yet a symbol. An example across scales, the national flag. A national flag is a powerful symbol. Stability. The flag's design is fixed, specific colors, patterns, proportions. It remains the same over decades. Reproducibility. Flags are manufactured by the thousands, flown on flagpoles, printed on clothing, displayed in photographs. Shared mapping. Citizens and others know that this pattern stands for this nation, its history, its values, its people. Context sensitivity. The same flag can mean different things in different contexts. Patriotism at a sports event, mourning at half-mast, protest when burned. Convention. The meaning is conventional, established by history, law, and cultural practice. The flag is a symbol. Its power lies not in the cloth, but in what it points to. 7. Symbols across domains. Symbols appear everywhere. Words are symbols. The sound dog stands for a category of animals. Different languages use different sounds for the same referent. Perro in Spanish, chien in French, gu in Mandarin. The mapping is conventional. Alphabets, characters, numerals, all are symbols. The mark 5 stands for a quantity. The mark end stands for end. The mark copyright stands for copyright. Signal codes. Traffic lights, Morse code, semaphore, maritime flags, all use symbols to convey information quickly and reliably. Instrument readings. A thermometer reading, a speedometer needle, a heart monitor beep. These are symbols that stand for measurements, guiding action and inference. Mathematical notations, equations, symbols like indelico for integral, indelico for sum, pi for the ratio of circumference to diameter, all are symbols standing for mathematical concepts. Gestures and signs, a thumbs up, a nod, a wave, a salute, these are symbolic patterns of movement that convey meaning. Digital encodings, bits, bytes, ASCII codes, Unicode, all are symbolic patterns that stand for characters, numbers, instructions. Symbols are everywhere. They are the currency of thought and communication. 8. Distinguishing arbitrary pattern from symbol. Here is a crucial point. Not every pattern is a symbol. A rock has a pattern, its shape, color, texture. But unless that rock is used to stand for something else, a boundary marker, a memorial, a sacred object, it is just a rock, not a symbol. A cloud has a pattern. It may look like a face, but unless that cloud is used to stand for something under shared convention, it is not a symbol. It is just a cloud that happens to resemble a face. A pattern becomes a symbol when it gains proxy function, when it is used to stand for something else under shared interpretive constraints. The pattern itself is not the meaning. The pointing is the meaning. An example, the totem pole. A totem pole carved by indigenous artists is a complex symbol system. The carvings are not just wood. They stand for clan lineages, ancestral stories, spiritual beings, social roles. Each figure has meaning within a shared cultural framework. For someone outside that culture, the carvings may be aesthetically interesting patterns, but they are not symbols for that person. They do not point to anything beyond themselves. The same physical patterns function as symbols for those who share the interpretive framework and as mere patterns for those who do not. Symbol function depends on shared mapping. Symbols remain embodied. Here is another crucial point. Symbols do not float free of embodiment. Their proxy function depends on stable pattern realization in some medium. Sound waves for spoken words, ink on paper for written marks, pixels on screen for digital text, neural patterns for mental symbols, magnetic domains for stored data, gestures in space for sign language. Symbols are always some pattern somewhere. There is no such thing as a disembodied symbol, a symbol without a physical substrate. This matters because it keeps us grounded. Symbols are not magical entities floating in a separate realm. They are patterns in the world, doing real work in the world. 11. An example, the book. A book contains symbols, words printed on pages. The symbols are embodied in ink and paper. If the book burns, the symbols are gone unless they exist elsewhere. If the ink fades, the symbols become illegible. The meaning is not destroyed when the book burns. The meaning exists in other copies, in readers' memories, in the cultural knowledge. But the specific embodied instance of the symbols is lost. Symbols require embodiment to function. No embodiment, no symbol. 12. The symbol is not the target. Another fundamental point follows. The symbol is not identical with its referent. The menu is not the meal. The portrait is not the person. The map is not the territory. The name is not the body. The equation is not the phenomenon. The legal title is not the land. This seems simple, yet whole societies forget it every day. We confuse labels with realities, numbers with lives, documents with persons, icons with things. But a science of symbols must remain alert. A proxy can be extraordinarily powerful without becoming identical to its target. In fact, its power often depends on the very fact that it is lighter, more portable, more repeatable, and more combinable than the target itself. The symbol lets us handle what is absent, distant, large, small, or complex. But it remains a handle, not the thing grasped. 13. Symbols can stand for other symbols. Another powerful development appears when symbols begin to refer not only to worldly targets, but also to other symbols or to rules for handling symbols. Quotation marks can signal that a word is being mentioned rather than used. A dictionary uses words to explain words. A programming language uses character strings to manipulate other character strings. A citation points to another text. A legend on a map tells us how to read the symbols on the map. This layering allows symbol systems to become reflexive, modular, and combinatorially explosive. A civilization can build law out of symbols about symbols, science out of symbols about measured symbols, and computation out of symbols that manipulate symbolic encodings. But again, the same law holds. Each layer remains embodied. Each layer remains governed by stability, reproducibility, mapping discipline, context, and convention. 14. The dangers of symbol worship. Humans are especially vulnerable to mistaking symbols for reality. We argue over titles as if titles were persons. We fear market numbers as if the digits themselves were bread or hunger. We cling to maps and forget the land. We inherit sacred scripts and sometimes treat the marks as if power lived inside the ink itself. We can even become so attached to labels that we stop seeing the living pattern they were meant to guide us toward. Pattern science does not deny the power of symbols, it explains it. Symbols become powerful because they let meaning travel, coordinate, and persist. But precisely because they are powerful, they tempt us to collapse proxy and referent. A mature symbolic literacy always remembers the symbol matters, the target matters, the relation matters, but they are not the same. The symbol principle. Now we can state the principle that organizes part 47. Symbols are Phi patterns that gain proxy function inside shared pattern use systems. They enable patterns to point beyond themselves. This means symbols are patterns, real, embodied, subject to pattern law. Symbols have proxy function. They stand for something else. Proxy function requires shared mapping. It is not private. Symbols are not the things they stand for. They are proxies. Symbols require stability, reproducibility, convention, context. A compact symbol equation. To compress the relation, we can write STC. We pronounce this symbol S points to target T under context C. This is not the whole science, but it is a useful skeleton. S is the symbol pattern. T is the target or target family. C is the context and convention set that stabilizes the mapping. If C changes enough, S may point elsewhere or fail to function. If T is unspecified, the proxy relation is incomplete. If S is unstable, symbolhood weakens or collapses. This compact equation reminds us that symbolhood is relational, conditional, and disciplined. 17. The rigor layer, the symbol gate. Symbols get their own gate, the symbol gate. The symbol gate asks, is the symbol pattern stable and recognizable? Is the mapping to the target declared? What does the symbol stand for? Is the shared mapping discipline specified? Who shares this mapping and how is it maintained? Are context conditions declared? Does the symbol's meaning depend on situation? Is the symbol's embodiment acknowledged? What medium carries it? Is the symbol distinguished from its target, not conflated? If the answer is no, if stability is missing, if mapping is undeclared, if shared discipline is absent, the symbol claim cannot be certified. The symbol gate requires stability declaration, how the symbol is recognized across time, mapping specification, what the symbol stands for, the community and conventions that maintain the mapping, context conditions, how meaning varies with situation, embodiment acknowledgement, the physical medium, proxy attestation, symbol is not conflated with target. 18. Firewalls. What symbol discipline blocks? Symbol discipline installs several critical firewalls. Firewall 1. No treating all patterns as symbols. Most patterns are not symbols. Symbol function is special. Firewall 2. No ignoring embodiment of symbols. Symbols are always realized in some medium. No floating symbols. Firewall 3. No assuming symbol function without shared discipline. Private symbols are not symbols in the public sense. Firewall 4. No conflating symbol with target. The symbol is not the thing it stands for. A map is not the territory. Firewall 5. No floating symbols free of pattern substrate. Symbols are patterns. They obey pattern law. No treating symbol meaning as intrinsic. Meaning comes from mapping, not from the symbol alone. No ignoring context dependence. Symbol meaning often depends on situation. These firewalls keep symbols honest. 19. Refusal conditions. We refuse to certify a symbol claim if symbol stability is undeclared, mapping to target is unspecified, shared discipline is absent, embodiment is ignored, symbol is conflated with target, symbol function is assumed without evidence, context dependence is ignored. Refusal here is not pedantry. It is protecting the integrity of symbols as stable proxies. 20. Why this matters beyond science. Symbols in life. Symbols are not only for science, they are for how we live. We navigate life through symbols. Words, gestures, images, rituals. All are symbols that structure our understanding, our relationships, our identities. A wedding ring is a symbol of commitment. A flag is a symbol of belonging. A logo is a symbol of trust. A name is a symbol of a person. Understanding symbols as stable proxies helps us use them wisely. We recognize that symbols are not the things they stand for. The flag is not the nation, it points to it. The logo is not the company, it represents it. The name is not the person, it invokes them. This prevents confusion, mistaking symbol for reality, map for territory, representation for thing. It also helps us appreciate the power of symbols. They enable us to think about what is not present, to communicate across distance and time, to build shared understanding, to create culture. Symbols are among our most powerful tools. Using them well requires understanding what they are and what they are not. A cross-scale tour of symbolhood. Let us gather the idea across scales. At the scale of a body, a pain signal can symbolically proxy tissue travel for a nervous system. At the scale of an organism, a scent mark can proxy territorial presence for another animal. At the scale of a family, a spoken name can proxy identity and relational address. At the scale of a city, signs and lights can proxy permissions, warnings, and directions. At the scale of science, graphs, formulas, and units can proxy hidden structures and measured states. At the scale of computation, binary states can proxy instructions, permissions, images, and walls of data. At the scale of civilization, scripts, flags, legal seals, currencies, and archives can proxy identity, value, authority, memory, and obligation. Across every scale, the same law remains. A stable embodied pattern gains proxy function in a disciplined use system. A final image, the key and the house. Imagine a key. The key is not the house. It is not the warmth inside. It is not the family. It is not the bed, the meal, the memories, or the safety. And yet the key matters. Its shape is a stable pattern. It is reproducible. It has a mapping relation to a lock. It works only in the right context. Its use depends on a shared physical and social discipline. It is fully embodied in metal. The key points beyond itself. It is not the house, but it can open the house's accessibility. A symbol is like that. It is a pattern that opens access to another pattern by proxy. That is why symbols are among the most powerful inventions in the history of pattern systems. They let presence act across absence. They let one pattern carry the handle of another. They let meaning travel through time, distance, and community. We began with comparability. From phi emerged distinction. From distinction emerged pattern. From pattern emerged identity, persistence, interaction, measurement, memory, modeling, prediction, learning, intervention, computation, information, publicness, scale, coarse graining, emergence, self-modeling, meaning. And now, symbols. Symbols are patterns that point beyond themselves. They are stable proxies, carrying meaning across contexts through shared mapping. They are embodied, not floating. They are powerful, not magical. Symbols are how meaning becomes portable. We now move forward. With symbols understood, we can ask, how are symbols read? How do we map from symbol to what it stands for, and how do we move between different symbolic systems? That is interpretation. That is part 48. Always, peace be upon you.